To perform in this Arne Slot side, I think is one of first of all, it's a great endorsement of a great player, right? But if we're looking at players who are always going to perform in Arne Slot sides, they tend to be physical. They tend to be able to have to go for a very long time. They tend to be a little bit taller, weirdly, even though we've had a couple of really good short players, and we've actually signed some relatively short players recently. And they tend to be physically powerful or able to ride those challenges and compete physically with other players. That is all to say that Harvey Elliot is still a great player. But I think he is now surplus to requirements at Liverpool, and this diamond in the rough will go somewhere else and do something brilliant if he can ride out the initial knock of having to leave a place that A, you supported, B, you grew a lot in, and C, you kind of, you were big under Klopp. Klopp's biggest regret, he said, was that he didn't play Harvey Elliot more. All of these were soft endorsements of Harvey Elliot. And then you've had a new manager come in, you've struggled maybe to make it into the team, he got that injury at the worst moment last season and it always felt unfair. But whenever I saw him play, I was at the Spurs game towards the end of last season with my wife and we saw him score that great goal against Spurs. I think it was a great goal against Spurs. That was Harvey Elliot, right? I've seen him score some really good Liverpool goals. I've seen him hook things up. And now he's at the England Under-21 tournament. What we're going to be seeing is Harvey Elliot inflating his price for this summer. Harvey Elliot leaving Liverpool on a high. A, because he won the league, but B, because I think for his career, he's going to be going somewhere else and being an effective, he's going to grow player. And I also think he's someone who will, obviously, a lot of people are going to be going, well, if we sign that guy, it brings a bit of the success that Liverpool have brought. I've got to admit, I think that was always my concern with Harvey Elliot, was whether he would grow into the role that we kind of wanted to carve out for him and what that role was. And in a slot midfield, I don't know if there is a role for Harvey Elliot permanently. I think there is a role for Szoboszlai. I think there is a role for Viats. I think there is a role for McAllister and all these guys. Does that make sense? And that, I think, it breaks my heart to think of Harvey Elliot coming to Liverpool and not ultimately living out his dreams. But with him performing so well, I think we have to capitalise. The same goes for any other player that Liverpool will only get cash for him right now. If we let them run down their contracts, we have done in recent years, if we don't get the money for these players that we can put towards other big players and kind of consolidate our squad, because I think that's what this summer is about, is consolidating again. The squad was a little bit bloated under Klopp. It was a little bit more amorphous. There was that spine of players and we were bringing in a few fringe guys and, we congratulated the youth guys for doing really well in the League Cup final and all these kind of things. But that was the way Klopp managed the team. Slot's a slightly different manager in the way that he manages things, but he's also a slightly different squad constructor, as any manager will be. And I think what we saw this season is he wants, A, regularly available players, but B, regularly available players who can come in and do a very specific role and be game changers. And weirdly, I think Harvey Elliot was that for Liverpool at many different points. But I think what he wasn't was a game changer in the way that Slot wanted. Yes, he could change the ball movement. Yes, he could put in some audacious tackles. And you saw that even against Newcastle in the FA Cup final, right? Was that the FA Cup? League Cup. FA Cup? League Cup. League Cup. Yeah, right. Ultimately, Harvey Elliott's career, I think, will have gone down as a success at Liverpool. But what we're now looking at is a diamond in the rough who still deserves and requires to be part of a starting 11 at any Premier League club. I think you could go to any Premier League club and grow, to have the time on the field, to apply yourself, to all these things. And he doesn't fit. He's not a right-wing player for us. He's not a cam, and he's certainly not a left-winger. He's certainly not a striker. He's not a defensively minded midfield player, even though he can do a lot of that tackling. He's not that rangy Gravenberch type or that Zubimendi distributor or any of those things. And I think we expect him maybe to grow a little bit more in this period. I think we expect him maybe personally to kind of grow a little bit more. And I think we have always seen him to be a very disciplined and good-mannered young man. But I don't know if we've seen him grow into the leadership role that maybe we want him to do at Liverpool. I think maybe he's kind of struggled alongside a Curtis Jones or a couple of other people to really break in to be a starting 11 player for Liverpool. And I think ultimately we're going to look back and go, yeah, great player, possibly even cult hero for Liverpool and part of brilliant things, but not able to, it's not about ability, not the fit that we needed at that time. And I think that is fair enough for anyone like Harvey Elliot. He's always been respectful. I think he's been living out his dreams as playing for Liverpool, frankly. And I think when I look back on him, I'll see a player who, yeah, he was good, but I don't know what I would have done. I don't know where he ever becomes a first team Liverpool player because I can't see him pushing anyone else out of the team. Again, not an indictment, an endorsement. He will go to, I mean, maybe a Fulham, maybe a Nottingham Forest, maybe an AC Milan, any of those level. AC Milan fans are going to get upset, but you know exactly what I mean. Maybe even Naples. Maybe I saw like a Dortmund coming in from at one time, right? If they move on some of their other midfielders, sure, bring them in. But that's my point here. We have this core Liverpool team who will start every game this season, if they can, if they're fit. And I don't think we saw Harvey Elliott as that guy. So if Slot doesn't see it, and I get it, we would love it if every player has potential and every young player has potential and we all invest in that potential and we all think that potential can, if done to its maximum, could be the best thing that ever played for the club. I'll be honest, like I never got that feeling from Harvey. I thought he was a great player. I think he was I still think he is. But I think you need a little bit of that. First of all, you need the opportunities, you need the breaks to go your way. But I think you also need a much more clearly defined profile. And I think publicly, we've never seen that clearly defined profile. I think privately, maybe he knows he sort of fell between some of the cracks slightly. My point is, Liverpool are, and Liverpool will always be, a club that will greet young players like Harvey Elliott and offer to develop them, make them into these possibly saleable assets, possibly first-team players. But Harvey, they then need to graduate into a position. And Harvey fell between those cracks of positions. And that's not his fault. To an extent, it's Klopp. To an extent, it's Slot. To an extent, it's the requirements of the team. All of the above. But when he leaves, the compilation we'll have of him, the memories we'll have of Harvey Elliott being in this side, selling him for 40, possibly 45 million because he's had a brilliant summer with England. Because guess what? When England needs someone he grits in, how old's Harvey Elliott now? Elliott. He's 22. I thought he was, so his birthday wasn't long ago, it was April, I thought he was 21. He's about to graduate. He's about to graduate into that set of players who will help whichever team it is that he goes to. And Liverpool can cash in on that. And I think that's where we see him now as an asset we can cash in on. We might see Joel Quansah the same way. Do you know what I mean? So let me know where you think Harvey ends up. I think we're looking at Nottingham Forest, possibly Wolves, possibly that level of player, right? And I'd love to know what you guys think as to letting a young guy like that go. Because I do think it's sad. I do think it's sort of like an indictment to an extent of the development of young players. But also, here's an interesting aspect. I think it's probably another video. How do you see young players breaking into this side? And where do you see that position? Quansah came in, was subbed off almost instantly. Kevin Keller has been sold. There's no one coming in behind Van Dijk. We don't have a young left back. I think we have a young right back in Conor Bradley. He's going to lock that down, God willing. 2 central midfielders. We've sold a lot of those central midfielders. Number 10 position is on lock. The striker position, is Jayden Danns really the profile we need? And Gamoa, not ours initially, we bought him in, but sure. Doak, possibly on the chopping block this summer. It seems like a harsh way of putting it, but you get what I mean. Behind Mo Salah? Do you know what I mean? So some big decisions to be made with some of these guys and careers to be shaped. Let me know what you guys think in the comments below. I think ultimately what I'm looking at is Harvey Elliott leaving the team. He joined us in 2018 and then he joined us in 2018 and 2019 he ultimately came to the club. I think Harvey Elliott will go down as one of those players that was brilliant, and we'll look back and we'll go, I think in a couple of years' time, he could be one of the best 5 players in England, English players. But I think he could also be one of those players that we went, well, yeah, I think we let go at the right time. And I know if he was to hear that, that would motivate him, because I know a few people around him and I think they all think he's a fantastic guy who ultimately is brilliant on the field and is a young man off it at the moment, right? Enjoying his life. I think that's probably one of the reasons he wouldn't want to go to a Leverkusen or someone like that. I think he would want to stay in the UK and grow his kind of social aspect. I think that might also be why Liverpool need to convince him to go somewhere else rather than the other way around, or why there needs to be a healthy offering. And I think that's ultimately where Liverpool will try and get their value this summer, is convincing players to go to a healthy offering and leave the success breeding environment that Liverpool seem to have created at the AXA and Anfield now. Let me know what you guys think in the comments below. I appreciate you guys. There's a Discord down there. There is obviously also a Patreon. And of course, there's a Super Chat. If you guys want to get in any of the three of them, I'd always be appreciative of that. I love having this community, and there's more news to come as the summer goes on. I will see you guys in a while. Much love.